All right, Ro, welcome to the Men Made for More podcast. So excited to have you on here today, my man.
I appreciate you having me here, Dave. Thank you.
Yeah, so let's, for listeners that don't know you, why don't you kind of kick it off with your story, both personally, professionally, and where you're at today?
Uh, so training, as far as my training career goes, or coaching career, probably started back in 2007. I moved back to Miami. I was living in California and I moved back to Miami in 2007. I was working for a financial company, actually. Went from working for a gym, worked for a financial company, and this financial company kind of sent me to Miami to try to open up an office, sort of an extension to this office that we had here in California. And, you know, if you remember 2006, 2007 is kind of when the market dipped. So that was a kind of a hard thing to swallow, and being, I don't want to say stuck in Miami, but having sort of this nostalgic feeling of maybe I should be here for a little bit. A year and a half kind of turned into 7 years. And so I decided I was going to try to go back into something that I actually really know and enjoy, which is fitness. And started off working for a martial arts company, just doing the business part, sales, marketing, programming. But because I had background in martial arts, I was able to at least teach some parts of that training and then create this, what we call sort of like this kickboxing fitness program that we wanted to implement to general pop instead of just people who just wanted to learn self-defense. We'd get people in who just want to learn how to punch and kick because they've taken a kickboxing class or a boxing class before and they enjoy the cardio aspect of it. So we implemented that program, and eventually I went on and started working with the owner in creating a program for the students and a training regimen for the students on our competition team when we would compete in sport jiu-jitsu. So I did that from about 2007 to 2000, I want to say about almost 2012. So about 5 years, and wanted to go ahead and transition into general fitness, where now I'm working with a broader group of people, right? We're talking general pop. I wanted to work with athletes. I wanted to get into youth training, maybe get into people with some really serious issues in terms of movement, and even people that have some neuro issues, maybe post physical therapy, Parkinson's primarily. I think it's one of the few populations that I've gotten a chance to work with, which was difficult, but it was really rewarding. So I started working for myself at this one local gym, but it just didn't provide what I was looking for in terms of sort of the concept or philosophy I had about training. And I didn't know what I was looking for. I just knew that sitting on a machine just wasn't it for me. There's just something more with bringing somebody in and putting them through a bunch of movements, sitting on a machine, doing shoulder presses, doing bench presses, doing leg extensions. So I wanted to look for something a little bit more than that. So then I reached out to this guy named Matt Pack. He owns Primal Fit Miami, and he has his own boutique studio. And I reached out to him to sort of work under him, kind of like a mentorship program. Wasn't even asking for employment. And, you know, I was kind of a month of back and forth. And then finally he's like, hey, if you want to, get some mentorship, come on by and we'll see what we can do for you. So I did that for probably about 4 months, 3 to 4 times a week, unpaid, where, including my job, where we would go over programming, we would go over client scenarios, case studies, things like that, what could potentially pop up. And he really taught me the understanding of vertical loading, which is what I gravitate towards. And, for the people that are listening that don't know vertical loading, it's just full body circuit training. That's really what it comes down to, right? And so we would do that for hours and hours. And that's probably when I kind of started to really get the knowledge and the idea of, okay, so this is really training, because now we're implementing this holistic type movement with progression, trying to keep everything simple and addressing everything from mobility to stability to regeneration. So after 4 months of working for free, I finally got hired. And so I worked with him for probably almost 2.5 years until I moved back to California and ended up in a city called Claremont, LA County. So upward, like Upland, Laverne, around that area, and started working for a startup studio and made that pretty successful by implementing his philosophy, which now became my philosophy. And it turns out that that type of specific style of training is actually what people would gravitate towards, this whole full body type of holistic training where we're addressing everything and not just having people sit down and, do presses and do pulls and things like that. And, I started working for that studio, I think in October of 2014, and they opened in September 2014. So needless to say, I took the 5:30 a.m. slot. I said, I want the 5:30 a.m. from Monday through Friday, 5:30 a.m., 6:30. I want the morning slots because I knew that the afternoon was going to be for my personal training clients that I was going to build out. Right. So I said, I want those early morning slots that'll give me the afternoon. So I ended up acquiring close to 20 clients probably by March of the following year. And then my class, I think, blew up from 5 people in a 5:30 a.m. class, sometimes just 2 people, to like 20 to 25 within a 6 months time frame because of that training style. Because everybody just liked that style of training where you have the prehab, you do the strength training program, and then you do sort of like this sort of cool down, this regen part, and then implementing sort of these little behavioral changes in their daily routine that's away from the training. So it's very service oriented. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't want to cut you off here, but I want to dive a little deeper on, because that was before some of this full body stuff was really kicking off in mainstream fitness, and people were still gravitating towards machine stuff. And how soon did it take you, learning under the mentor that you worked with? How soon did you realize that, like, yes, this is where I need to be going? Was it immediate? Did you have to try it out yourself first? Did you roll it out with a few different clients, or how soon did you know that, like, hey, I need to stop doing this sit down on the machine isolation thing to this full body vertical loading?
Well, I think I knew that before I even started working for Matt, because there wasn't anything enticing to what I was doing. I wasn't doing anything different. All right. And different can sometimes be bad. Right. So it just really all depends. All I knew is that if the main issue is that people sit on the desk all day and then sitting in front of a computer all day, then why would I bring them into a workout regimen where they're sitting all day, pressing all day, doing pushes all day, right? Even if you could implement pulls sitting on a machine, this whole sort of single joint movement it just wasn't something that I really wanted to do. And it's not, you can still implement it. It's fine. There's a time and a place for it. But if you're looking to improve somebody's movement quality, I just knew that before I even started, working with Matt, I just knew that that wasn't it, right? But I wanted to see how it would be executed. And I was just transitioning into fitness coaching. So my knowledge was extremely small at that time. I just knew how to work out through isolations and isometrics and sitting on a machine, bodybuilding type of training, right? So I wanted to learn the structure. How can this be implemented as a routine, and how can this be progressed, right? And that's precisely why I went to look for something like that. My cousin was actually training with Matt at that time, and I was kind of bummed out that he wasn't training with me and he was training with Matt. But then he was like, you got to check this guy out and see what he's doing. I think it's something that you really like. And I love this whole philosophy, which is, move better, look better, feel better, still move like an athlete, even when you're in your mid 40s or 50s or 60s. So, and then and I just, once I saw that, that's when I knew that, okay, so this is the direction where it's going.
Yeah, it's such a turning point. And for a lot of people, for those that maybe are listening that might still fall into going to the gym, sitting on machines, bouncing from machine to machine, and find
Hmm.
themselves maybe sitting for the majority of their workout. Do you want to touch on some of the problems with exclusively doing sitting training on machines and those things? Because I know you said that there is a time and a place, and I agree there's a time and a place for it. But if someone's spending the majority of their routine going to the gym, bouncing from machine to machine, what are some of the problems that you see with that in terms of what they're missing out on?
Um, I think for strength wise, you can get strength for sure. I think we both know that. In terms of hypertrophy training, machines are fantastic for it. But it just, if we're talking about somebody's movement quality, posture, right, there's just no benefit to it, especially if you're sitting around all day, right? So imagine sitting around all day, then having to go to the gym and having to sit around all day while you're working out, right? So there's, we're so big now in just proper posture and proper movement, and we see it all the time. Movement, mobility videos and stability videos, and these are things that you just aren't really going to acquire, right? If you're completely supported, right? You want to challenge the body as much as you can, and in regards to that aspect of training. And again, it's something, I don't want to discredit that type of training. It's just that as you get older, you want better movement, better mobility. In my opinion, you'd want better movement, better mobility, as opposed to just packing on a bunch of muscle. But it's all about the goals,
Right.
right? So if you have a client who just wants that bodybuilding type of training, there's only so much information you can actually give that person, where you just have to be like, okay, listen, we'll do 80% of what you want, except for the other 20%. That's going to be something I'll give you.
Gotta find the
And
compromise because
yeah,
you can have the best of both worlds to some degree too. You do have to pick a single goal, but having 20% of even that movement based stuff, I'm sure you've seen better results from that as opposed to the 100% full in simply training for hypertrophy.
100%, 100%. And I've gotten clients to where they're so familiar with bodybuilding style training. So that bodybuilding style training, I say, okay, listen, you know this, you do it on your own. All right. Let's look over your phone, make sure you're doing it right. You can do that on your own. Let me give you something different, right? That's going to be conducive to some of these goals, right? So, perfect example, I had a client who wanted to improve his golf game. Well, bench pressing and sitting on a machine and doing leg presses isn't going to do it. So you can do that on your own. Let's do something that's going to improve the golf game, right? And that falls along to movement training, right? I don't want to call it functional training. I would say, let's say movement training, right? Lots of rotation, a lot of stability work, a lot of mobility work. So that's kind of how you find the balance, right?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I love how you meant, you throw around things like mobility and stability and rotational stuff. And I think that's for the people that are finding themselves primarily on a machine, you miss that because machines allow you only to train and it's not meant to have a lot of that stability. You're training in one specific plane of motion. You're not
Mm-hmm.
having to control the weight. You're not having to stabilize your core. And that's what you're describing is just, it's missing from if you're not doing some other things to supplement that. And what are the biggest things from a rotational standpoint, from a mobility standpoint, even a stability standpoint? What are some of the key areas you see missing in people time and time again that they would benefit from working on more?
Um, I mean, for having worked at the PT clinic for for a few months, um, T-spine rotation is lacking 100%. Okay, and not just in rotation, but in flexion and extension, right? Completely lacking. So those are things that people need to work on a lot. Extensions, flexions, rotations on the T-spine, definitely mobility in terms of hip mobility. Really, any joint that should be mobile, you should work on. All right, let's keep it real, right? So if we're gonna follow the joint by joint theory, just keep everything mobile that needs to be mobile, keep everything stable that needs to be stable, right? And that's I think one of the things that people miss or new coaches miss because, and I completely get this, guilty of it as well when I first started out, you're doing things that you know, and you're doing things that clients want, right? It's having that conversation of, listen, this is what you need, so this is what we're going to tackle first. And the machine training is fine, but you might have to go through possibly corrective movements first. Another word that I don't like, possibly corrective movements first, before you get into these heavy compound loads. So.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of great stuff. And I want to touch a little deeper on a couple of things you mentioned. And one of the reasons I'm so excited to have you on is that you're so good at taking some complex topics, complex training styles. You have a ton of background in training, but then simplifying it in a way that's unique to that person and creating behavior change. And I think those are two things that are missing in a lot of people working with trainers. There's not the tough conversations being had of, hey, this is what you need, and this is how you actually guide them along that path. So let's start with the simplifying training piece first. Can you touch on kind of how you take these complex topics and how you create a simple action plan for the people you're working with when trying to create that change?
So that part's kind of a balance, right? My mentor, Matt, used to say, giving you little what you want and a lot of what you need, right?
Love it.
So you're going to have a little bit of what you want in there, right? But for the majority of it, it's really about what you need. So, and this comes with time, this comes with experience, and, a lot of trial and error in how you approach clients to have these conversations, and also understanding the client's personality and how you present these options and how you're going to lay down the program. So doing the assessment is extremely beneficial, doing the movement assessment. It's one of those things where you have to really educate the person on, okay, the reason why you're moving a certain way, it's because of this factor, X factor. There's always going to be some type of asymmetry. It's never going to be perfect, but you're at least able to sort of recognize where the movement deficiencies are, right? And then work on that and implement that within the program. So you can have the majority of the program to where it's all based off of correctives, but then you give a little bit of what they like, right? To where they feel accomplished. Because a lot of the things that I think, I don't know, we want to create a balance, okay, to where we're actually fixing the client, right? But then making sure that they're doing something that they're good at, so that they feel accomplished. So creating that program, that balanced program, right? You don't always just want to give them something that they can't do. You got to give them something that they can also do, right? And if bench pressing a barbell or a dumbbell is something that they're good at, then implement it, right? Put that into the program. But the majority of the program will be based off of how it's going to make them move better, stabilize better, things like that. So that's kind of how I structure the program, with the people I work with.
Yeah, that's great. I love the little bit of what you want, but a lot of what you need. And I know
Correct, yeah.
I'm gonna preface this with, I know there's no one size fits all approach, but for those people listening, what percentage or what guidelines should people use for how much to work on weaknesses? And this is something I'm curious too. I struggle with personally, of how much time do we spend working on those weaknesses, those mobility limitations, those key areas where we're missing, and how much time do we spend leveraging our strengths? So in terms of those things you are good at, or those things maybe you're naturally, you have strong shoulders or something, what's the balance you're finding, or how do you educate people on where to sit on that? Should it be a lot of time working on weaknesses and a little bit leveraging the strengths, or do you find a happy medium with that, or how do you go about that?
That's that honestly all depends. And I think in anything fitness, it all depends is something that we constantly just sort of reiterate to say it just really all depends. It's hard for me to, so I always try to give a client something like homework, right, that they like to do, as opposed to something they don't like to do. Because if I give them something they don't like to do, they're never going to do it. So I want to try to give them homework that they actually like to do, that they see some type of benefit. Um, and then something that they don't like to do that they know they'll also see some type of benefit, right? So if we're going to go by, how things should progress in terms of programming, let's say you're working on a certain type of training body part on Monday, then you give yourself that 2-day rest period, and then you're, repeat that whole movement. Then I would say probably every couple of days is when I would recommend working on certain parts of your weaknesses, right? Every couple of days. So if I give somebody movement homework to where I know that they're not good at this, right, then maybe give yourself a couple of days off and then do it again. So I would say every couple of days would be a good frequency. So that's probably how I would approach that. Actually, it's how I do approach it. But within that routine itself, like for example, my online clients, within that routine itself, are movements, little snippets here and there that they're not good at, that they're doing, whether they realize it or not, right? So they're essentially really doing it every day. They're just not doing the full program. So like when I give a mobility or stability program, you have one day where you're doing that whole program. And that is your whole workout, mobility and stability, right? That is your whole workout. But within these everyday homeworks, it's all in there. So even though they feel like it's every couple of days, it's actually in there whether they realize it or not. Sneaky.
Secrets out.
It's sneaky, but every coach does this.
Yeah.
Yeah, every coach does this.
No, we do the same thing. And I with the people that I get a program for, it is mixing in. If you don't like doing it, if you dread doing a full, maybe 30-minute session or something of hitting all your weaknesses, mix it into the things with, incorporate it with, do a bench press with some T-spine work, supplemented with it. There's different ways you can get creative where you're still hitting the weakness, but if you love benching and you hate T-spine mobility work, mix the two together, find a way to, combine those things, and you might end up finding better results with that as well, and usually do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what's worked out really great is let that be your rest period.
Yeah.
Let that be your rest period. You're going to go ahead and press, right? Go ahead and press. And then get into some rotations and then go back and press. Let that be your rest period. So it's like that, the corrective part.
Yeah. So true.
Yeah.
I like how you're really good about giving people homework in between things too, where it's not just like, hey, you're seeing me once or twice a week and then I'll see you next week. Because that homework stuff is so important for how people are really progressing in between. How do you, how do you not make sure people are biting off more than they can chew? Because you're really good with changing behavior, and sometimes that means doing less than people think they can do, where I think people always feel like when they're motivated, they're like, okay, I'm going to work out 6 times by the time I see you next, and I'm going to cut out all carbs from my diet, and I'm not going to drink. And then people end up crashing and burning with that because it's not sustainable. They're making too many changes at once. How do you go about small behavior change to really set people up for success?
If I was to give you an example, let's see. Let's go with, okay, so let's do movement and nutrition, right? So I'll give a few examples in terms of movement and nutrition. So biggest thing about the nutrition part is the alcohol consumption, right? Especially given the current situation. So let's talk about alcohol consumption. Glass of wine every night, right, is a constant behavior that somebody has, right? So we're talking about 6-7 days a week where they're having a glass of wine. To make a lifestyle change, and this is just based off of experience, and a lot of read a lot of books and certain things that you can kind of do to sort of switch this behavior. For me, it's the little changes, right? So if somebody's consuming that much within a given week, I can't just tell them to cut it off. I can't do that. It's just not going to work. And I've seen it based off of my experience. I've done that. and it doesn't work, right? So taking off one night isn't going to hurt them. They can do that, right? So it's having that conversation of, do you need to drink 6 times a week? Can you afford to not drink Monday? That's the start of the week, right? You're going to plan out the rest of the week. Monday's usually a hard day after the weekend, right? So let's not drink Monday night. Let's do something else. But then you got Tuesday through Sunday, right? Then eventually, hopefully, that behavior goes from Monday, Tuesday, doing something else, to not just drinking Wednesday through Sunday, right? Until the realization comes into where, okay, I actually don't need this. I prefer doing this instead. Self-medication as opposed to rewards, right? Somebody's completely stressed out, they drink. Changing that behavior pattern to where, listen, if you're stressed out, let's do this. Let's go for a walk. Okay, nice walk. Maybe listen to a podcast. And then if you're having a great day, then reward yourself with maybe a glass of wine. So just small things. It's not, you can't just implement these huge changes. It has to be small steps. If it comes to movement, let's tackle the one thing that you really need the most. And I want you just to do maybe 5 to 10 minutes, right? Just 5. I mean, can you do 5 minutes of X movement just to improve your mobility or stability or wherever movement deficiencies are, right? Can we do that? Yes. Can you do it once a week? Yes. Perfect. And then you as a coach, you got to hold them accountable. So make the phone call, make the text, the text, and say, hey, did you do it today, right? And if they didn't, hold them accountable. So,
yeah, I love that, following through and keeping people accountable, because that's a tough piece. But I also, I'm totally on board with what you're saying with starting small. This one thing we can change, and talk about that all the time with my clients too. It's, they almost roll their eyes sometimes, that they're like, really, that's it? That's all you want me to do? And it's like, you almost need to be like, trust me, just, I know you think you can do more, but I know you also have a lot going on in your life right now. Like, start with this, show me you can do this. And then
right.
you'll earn the responsibility to take on some more change to implement.
Yeah. And it becomes habit, or it becomes routine, right? Just small things here and there. I mean, you're not, I've seen it fail when you completely just change somebody's behavior the minute they see you, where you get them as a client, all of a sudden for the next 6 weeks, this is what I want you to follow as your meal plan, right? This is all I want you to do, right? It's doomed to fail. There's only very few people that you can give that type of recommendation to. And, this is what I love about precision nutrition, is when they talk about level 1, 2, or 3 client, where you have the extremists, the level 3, where those are that type of people. And those are few and far between, right? And that's where the general pop, they don't fall under that category. So you get that one person where you're like, this is what I want you to do for the next 6 weeks. It's going to be difficult. Can you do it? And they can, but that doesn't happen very often. So.
And the true people that are in that level 3 category that can take that and run with it, what most people don't realize is that they've already implemented the basics for a long period of time. That's the missing piece too. You don't just jump, you don't skip through levels of knowing nothing about nutrition and all of a sudden being ready to commit to something for 6 weeks all out. And if you do, you might get some good results, but do you see people crash and burn after that too? I think it's not sustainable too, is the other piece of that.
It's not sustainable. No, it's not. And I think in terms of performance, and we're talking professional athletes and they have a career, it's a little bit different story but even then, during their off season, they kind of let themselves go. They give themselves a little bit of grace. But let's talk about people who compete in bodybuilding or physique, right? They've already implemented this foundation. Okay. And then come showtime, they have X amount of time to where they have to really prep. But after competition, if they've got a long ways before the next comp, they give themselves grace, because it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. It's not healthy. So.
And having grace is huge. It's easy to, I can't remember what I was listening. I heard this analogy too, where it's like, just because you people think when they slip off in their nutrition, then it's like, everything breaks loose and it's just like, okay,
Right.
I'm going to get off the rails for how long. But they say if you get a scratch in your car, you don't just go total your car because you're like, oh, I got a scratch in it, so I'm going to go total my car somewhere because I had this little scratch in it. And being able to get
Mm-hmm.
back on track and have that, knowing that you're not alone, and people, even the people you look up to as the people that seem to have all that fitness together, have messed up from time to time. They're just maybe have enough experience to get right back on track with it.
Yeah, no, I mean, you bring up a good point, because that's all a mindset shift. It's this thing where if they don't accomplish a certain task, all of a sudden they've sort of just failed. And sometimes if you give them a certain time frame, they don't accomplish it, then everything just kind of goes on, because they feel as if they're not going to. And that's why small changes are better. You want to make sure that they're able to accomplish these small changes. You can tack on more tasks as you go, when they start to get a little bit more autonomous with their behavior and the movements. But giving them these small changes is the key, and change that mindset to where, hey, listen, it's okay. Like, it's completely normal to fall off the wagon. It's just about, getting back on, and coaching, support for sure is huge. You have to be the kind of coach that's empathetic, and you have to support that, and you have to give them grace in falling off. But if that behavior continues to where they're consistent, and all of a sudden they fall off, and they're consistent again, and they fall off, and there's this theme where they're constantly falling off, then it goes deeper than that, to where it might be a psychological thing, might be an emotional thing. It might be out of your scope. So you're going to have to sort of kind of dive into that and address it. And if it's out of your scope, then you're just going to have to refer out, because those things can happen. It's not just, and again, we're only talking about my experience with people that going into or pursuing a healthy lifestyle, changing your lifestyle to look better, to lose weight, things like, it's not just about the aesthetic. There's something deeper behind that, right? And if you can get to that without diving into anything psychological, right? Let's just say emotional. If you can get to that, then that's just going to make the process a little bit easier, because now you know where it's coming from. But those things pop up, and you kind of have to address that also.
And for those people that you've seen that, they make some progress and they get set back, do you find that to be more some of those underlying psychological, emotional things that you might have to refer out for, they might have to seek other help for, or is that them trying to take on too much and not starting small enough, or maybe not implementing small enough changes?
It could be both. It could be both. Media doesn't help, because they're so inundated with quick fixes. So that certainly doesn't help. It doesn't help us as coaches, to try to at least relay this information of, it doesn't happen the way you see it. It could, but then at the end of the day, what are you changing? What are you pursuing? Right. And it's not sustainable. I think it's a combination of things, right? It's a combination of things. It's the quick fix that people see every day, and there's the emotional aspect of it, and there's certainly also the psychological aspect of it. Recognizing which is which is going to be beneficial for you as a coach, And there's been times when I've had to address certain issues to where I'm like, well, this is sort of out of my scope. Right. And in order for us to move forward, you might need to address this first with a professional. So consider that as an option. Look help into getting that, but I'll help you on this side of it. Right? I'll help you on the lifestyle changes and your health and fitness journey. I'll help you on that. I'll support you as much as I can. But that part is affecting what you're doing here. So let's address that. Address that with a professional.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah.
And for the person that isn't dealing with that, how do you sell people on the value of simplicity and consistency? Because there's so many people out there that love to jump from program to program, jump from trainer to trainer, jump from diet to diet, looking for that magic bullet, that quick fix. How do you sell someone on, hey, you just need to stick to what works?
Yeah, it comes down to education, Dave. Honestly, it's not, it's not about. I hate the word selling because I don't want to sell people on the fact that this is how it's going to be. No, it's education. You want to educate them on the process that, listen, this is what it's going to take, right? And again, it's about the hard conversations of telling somebody, this is what it's going to take to get to the goal that you want. Okay. If you're committed and you're ready to do it, then just follow X, Y, and Z. All right. If we deviate a little bit here and there, that's okay, but you have to follow the plan. So it's about education, and really, a lot of people are just not educated on that process. And veteran fitness coaches that I've met throughout the years have gone through the same problems, and they've found a way to sort of address these issues. But now, it's sort of seamless because you've already had experience under your belt and how you approach certain things. And you probably have that client that probably still won't follow, and they'll do their own thing, and then they won't see the progress, right? They won't see the results. And so that's when you dial it back down and say, listen, you got to follow the process. You got to follow the program, okay? Because undertraining doesn't give you results. Overtraining won't get you results. So if you're not doing it enough, we're not going to get there. If you're doing too much, we may not get there either, right? So let's follow the program, okay? And if there's anything that needs to be addressed or changed, and I say this with everybody, my online clients, especially that I just write programs for, I say, listen, if there's every bi-weekly check-in, I said, if there's something not working, if you're feeling weak or tired in certain days, right, we need to address it as we go, right? If there's certain variables that we need to fix, we'll do it. We'll fix it, right? You're not completely revamping stuff. You're just changing a few key things here and there so that way they're successful, right?
I love that you say not revamping things, because people find one thing that's not working and they throw out their whole program and try and jump
Yeah,
on something else, when really it could be just a matter of simple removing one thing or restructuring it a little bit or changing the time of the day you work out, or like looking at a couple other things that a small change can make a huge impact in those cases.
huge. Yeah, absolutely huge impact. And as I made this mistake as a new coach of sort of revamping a program every couple of weeks, right? Adding variety, making sure they don't get bored. And, as a new coach, that's probably the biggest mistake you can make. Well, I'll give you some grace. As a new coach, it will be the mistake that you'll make. So
Yep.
I'll give you some grace for that. Absolutely. But taking all that down, writing it down, looking at it, and simplifying the movements is the key. And if you honestly, now I just keep all the movements the same and just changing certain variables here and there, so that way they're successful. If they're getting stronger faster, then let's add a load. Let's add 2.5%, 5%, and see where you're at. But all the movements are the same. The program is going to be the same for the next 4 weeks. All right, just changing a few things here and there.
Yeah. So. I think that's how it should be for those that, have the means to hire a coach and get help with it. I think that's so invaluable for having someone, objectively and unbiased, be able to look at your program, your weaknesses, some of those things we talked about, and be able to apply those. But for those that are just looking for, for those that are programming on their own or trying to do it on their own, there's tried and true programs out there based on any goal. You're probably not the first one trying to move better. You're probably not the first one trying to put on muscle or get stronger.
Absolutely.
There's so many programs out there that just work. So don't try and add your own spice to it. I see people try and mesh together separate programs because they're like, well, I want to do this and this and this. And it's like, follow a program that works, get your results, and then you can bounce the next thing.
Absolutely. And the one thing with the general population of people is that because fitness, well, I don't want to say fitness, coaching, training, right? It's personal training, personal fitness coaching is not considered a necessity. It's considered as an accessory, right? It's one of those things that if people can afford it, then they have it. They get it. They hire a coach. So it's an accessory. It's this thing seen as something that people don't really need, but it's the first line of defense if you really think about it. Okay, prior to you getting sick, okay, this is where it starts. This is the first line of defense. This hiring a coach to walk you through this path. And I'm a big believer in education and not keeping somebody. So if we have a certain time frame, if you tell me that in 6 months this is what you want to accomplish, then that's our time frame. Anything past that, if you want to continue, that's fine. But we got to get in as much as we can within that time frame. If we don't, then we got to keep moving forward. We got to keep working together. But if you're able to get all that information, right, as much as you can, so that way you're self-sufficient, then great, right? Let's do that. But it's not, it's not seen as a necessity, and it should be, right? It should be. And I think coaches now are getting a little bit more respect in terms of their knowledge and how training is sort of being approached, right? It's progressed a lot. Before it was just seen as some type of bodybuilding thing, where now it's different, and people are starting to gravitate towards that now because of the fact that it's not bodybuilding anymore, right? I mean, it's really holistic approach, right?
And I do think it's a necessity for people. If you, if you don't have the knowledge base, you don't have the background, hiring a coach for a period of time, one that will educate you and one that will actually give you the tools to be able to take care of yourself, to learn how to stay fit, to learn how to stay healthy, to move well, so that you can continue to build over time. That can save you, years and decades of injury, pain, frustration, lack of results. So even for a period of time, I think it's so necessary to try that. And it's not, like you said, it's not saying that you have to work with someone for the next 20 years of your life. It's saying invest in a period of time, learn as much as you can, find a coach who will actually educate you on what's needed to do that, and not one that's just giving you workouts and not filling in the blanks. And that will work wonders in terms of your future in your health and fitness.
Absolutely. You create the value within the lifestyle, right? You create the value within the lifestyle. You're not trying to justify the cost. You're creating value within the lifestyle. You're not going to sit there and say, well, it's because I have all these credentials as a coach is the reason why I cost this much. No, this is an investment in your life. Your life is worth more than this. So this is actually a small price to pay. So this X amount of dollars that you're investing right now is a small price to pay for you to be healthy X amount of years before, I don't know, this old age sets in where you actually have to go to the hospital and address some issues. But this is a small investment. And, the justification on yourself as a coach to where, listen, I have all this education, I've been doing this for years, and this is the reason why it costs this much, will only go so far. You have to justify the value of this lifestyle and how it's going to be beneficial for you. And this small amount that you're investing, it's just a small portion of what that's really going to cost in the long run, right? So justify the lifestyle. It's a small investment. You don't justify yourself as the coach to create value. So, yeah.
And for those that, are looking for good coaches, good content, those that are trying to self-learn, where do you go for content? Where do you recommend people looking? Because that's a big thing too. There's a lot of people throwing their credentials around. There's a lot of people putting out a ton of content. Go through your social media feed. If you follow any of these people, there's a ton of no shortage of content going out. Where do you find credible resources, incredible content, and where do you steer people to go?
Oh man, that's God, compared to it was probably 10 years ago, you have so much more so much more great content now that you had about 10 years ago. I remember when I first started as a personal trainer, YouTube wasn't the place you went to for fitness advice. But now YouTube has tons of great content. If somebody is educated, if a client is educated, or potential client, or anybody, normal, regular person who's not in this business, in this industry, they're somewhat educated in regards to movement and have some semblance of knowledge when it comes to nutrition, then I would steer them into looking at, I would steer them to you. I would steer them to the prehab guys, right? Things like that. I mean, simple things that you can do that you can easily comprehend, right? I normally don't direct them to anything that involves any kind of extreme athletic training or plyometric workouts, and nothing against CrossFit. I don't steer them towards CrossFit, only because, one, that's not really an area that I'm an expert in, number one. And number two, I don't think it falls in line with the clientele that I work with, right? So, and again, it all comes down to what the goals are. So if a person is looking for, certain type of goal to accomplish, whether it's mobility, stability, whether it's nutrition, then it's about trying to find the right type of content to guide them. I mean, there's so much content out there, but I would do my research and say, okay, don't look at this, just follow this person. They've got great content in regards to what you want to do. But for someone like yourself, someone like myself, or anybody who's been in this industry for a long time, we can pretty much recognize what good content is and what's bad content, right? So for the most part, the people that I follow is probably where I would tell my clients to also, to follow, because these are all good contents. And there's just so much stuff out there, just so much stuff. And a lot of people are doing some really good stuff. So it's hard to really, it just all depends on what their goals are. Yeah.
Yeah. Depends on your goals, and you can pick the more specific you can get, you can really narrow down some good content, but also finding content is only as good as your ability to implement it. That comes back to some of the behavior change we talk about. That comes back
Absolutely.
to not just consuming so much content, always pouring over all these exercise things and going like, oh, that'd be nice to perform. Maybe I'll try that in a few weeks. Like, try something, stick to it, try one thing,
Yep.
see if it's improving, pushing your health forward, or if it's not, then find something else and implement that.
Oh no, 100%. Yeah. I mean, I've had some people, show me videos, say, oh, can we try this? And I'm like, no, we're not doing that. That's absolutely not going to happen. That is not even going to be part of the program. Yeah. At some point, maybe a year from now we could try it, but no, that's not going to happen. So yeah.
And
I love it.
Yeah, the basics are what work, and that's what we keep coming back to. If you see something standing one leg on a upside down Bosu ball, juggling and trying to curl with the other arm, it's like that's probably not getting you any closer to where you need to be, unless your goal is to do exactly just that.
Yeah, and I like the Bosu. I use the Bosu sometimes.
Yeah.
I've never used it for that, for sure, because for me, it just doesn't make sense, especially for my philosophy when it comes to training. It just doesn't make sense for me to use it that way. One leg, doing bicep curls or shoulder press. For me, it just doesn't make sense. My philosophy is a little bit differently. Like you can get the same type of response without having to stand on the Bosu. Mm-hmm. All right. But again, time and a place for everything.
Time and a place, and not trying to combine too many things was the big point of that too. It's like if you want to get good at juggling, juggle. If you want to get good at doing curls, curl. Like, you don't have to combine everything into one exercise, thinking you're going to create some super compensation that doesn't end up occurring.
100%. Couldn't agree more, man. It's funny because now that's sort of the running joke when you have, and I just saw this post the other day where and it was just, I don't want to say mocking, but just kind of making fun of that whole that whole idea of standing on this Bosu while pulling a cable down and, it's got bands on the knees. It's just, you're doing way too much. You build a good solid foundation, you can work from that foundation, right? I mean, that's the basis of anything. It's the basis of anything. Having a good solid foundation in everything you do, and then build on top of that foundation. If you don't have that foundation, you're going to crumble. So that's everything. That's not even just movement. That's just life.
So well said, man. Yeah. And it's
yeah.
a good transition in the end here. I love ending on something like that, just making sure you build up that foundation in any area. And I want to transition to our last part here where I want this podcast to be about much more than just the X's and O's of fitness. And I think we've already hit on a lot of that today, but a lot of people, especially if we're talking social media and seeing other people and following these things, it's so easy to get looking to other places and comparing and thinking that life's better on the other end, or exercise is better on the other end, or nutrition, whatever area of life it is. And that can be deceiving, and that can be hard for people that are striving for improvement and looking at someone like yourself, super successful trainer, fun guy to be around, full of knowledge, full of, energy with your clients. And it's easy to look from the outside and be like, oh, you have it all together. Like you're doing all of it. And that can be, a challenge for people. And that's something that on this podcast, I really love to address on some of those things, those other challenges that people don't see. And if you don't mind being real with listeners, what challenge have you faced, either recently in your life or in years past that really end up being a big catalyst for your growth as a man?
All right. I guess we're trying to keep it super real.
It's real.
Yeah. Man, let's see. Biggest challenge for me would probably be more like on the vulnerability side. I don't like that feeling of being vulnerable. So I sort of just mask that, right? If there's any kind of personal situation happening within my life, personal life, or, within my relationship, right? I don't allow myself to be vulnerable. So what do? Right? I go to what I know, what I can do to sort of maybe release some stress, work out, train, go to jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, whatever, right? So the challenge has always been about being vulnerable, right? And now I'm starting to learn that it's more of a form of strength than it is a weakness, because then it allows you to communicate better, right? It allows you to not bottle things up inside. And I'm not perfect. I still do it where I'm not able to kind of really communicate, what I'm feeling, because I don't want to feel vulnerable. But I found that allowing myself to be vulnerable allows me to become stronger, because I'm able to talk about it, address it, and then move forward, right? So that to me has been probably the most challenging part, is that vulnerability and being able to communicate that vulnerability.
Yeah, I really appreciate you sharing that. That's
Yeah.
I think as guys in general, that's not an easy thing to do. But that can actually create, there's people respect that and can connect deeper with you and realize that you have those things you're working on too. And that creates an even deeper connection that, betters each other. And I think that's powerful when we can access it. It's not comfortable though.
No, it's not. And, it's look, men in general, guys in general, they don't talk about feelings, right? It's just, and I'm making such a general statement, because not every guy's like that. But let's just say at least the majority of guys that I've been around with, right? We don't talk about feelings, especially in my culture where men don't show emotions. In the Filipino culture, it's just not something that you do. We don't show emotions. It's considered a sign of weakness. No, you can't cry. You can't do this. If you cried, you get yelled at even more, because now you're crying, you're showing weakness, and it's just one of those things that was just ingrained. And I think men are just brought up that way, where it's so much easier to just talk about it and figure it out and just let it all out, because then now you can sort of move forward, not just personally, but in your relationship. But I still struggle with it. I still have my moments where I'm just like, oh, you know what? I don't want to talk about it, But I probably within the last I don't know, 4 or 5 years, I mean, I've opened up a lot more than I opened up to you. So,
Appreciate it.
yeah. So.
What was that? Was there a switch that happened? I'm just curious. Was it something you just became more aware of, and or how did that gradually come about, or suddenly maybe come about?
Uh, having a partner that, um, having a partner that supports that helps, right? So, my girlfriend she's big on communication. So having her there really helps. Otherwise, if she was just like me, we wouldn't have any conversations, right? Everything would just get bottled up. And seeing the aftermath of not being able to communicate all these things is one of those eye-opening things for like, oh my goodness. I mean, have I been doing this all my life? It's terrible, just seeing the aftermath of it is just it's not healthy. So it's probably within the last 5 years when, we've been together for 5 years. So she's having a partner who supports communication, who's willing to listen, who's able to give a constructive feedback, right? Oh, and also not taking things personally. Not taking, making sure the constructive feedback is you're actually taking it as, okay, it's feedback. It's not personal.
Yeah.
So one of the things I also had to learn was like, calm down. She's just giving you some feedback. So having a partner that supports that has been very helpful. So.
That's awesome. Yeah. No, I
Yeah.
appreciate you sharing both those things.
Yeah.
And we're gonna wrap up here in a sec. Want to give a couple of my summary points that I had, a few things I was jotting down as we were talking, to some of the key takeaways for people listening. I love the point you said of giving people, or whether you're doing it on your own, doing a little of what you want and a lot of what you need. I think that can take people a long way of knowing that you can still have those things that you want, but start working on the things that really push the needle forward. Another thing's just starting small, picking one thing to work on. Behavior change takes time, not trying to do it all at once. And the last piece I love, what you were talking about, is invest in your life and invest in the lifestyle you want to create. Don't see it as a major cost. If that's something that you're really looking to improve in, seek out the help in the areas that you need it. So those were a few of the big takeaways I had among many here, Ro. Anything you want to add to that?
No, I mean, that pretty much kind of sums it up. Just simple is good. Okay. Simple is good. Sometimes simple is better. Stick to the foundations. There's so much information that you can easily be confused as to what you should go with. The one thing I really want to drive home to the people listening is, especially men. Okay. Now we're talking about, men in general who, for some reason, we find it difficult to ask for help, right? It's seek help, right? Seek help. If there's something I don't know what to do, I mean, I'll ask. I mean, if I get a client who's got some really serious issues, then I talk to my girlfriend who's a physical therapist. I ask, seek help, right? And that's what I want to drive home, especially for men. It's okay to ask for help, right? You don't have to be handheld through the whole process, but it's okay to ask for help. Like just seek help. Okay? And if there's something you don't know, especially when it comes to this arena, like, call somebody, make the investment, right? Just somebody within wherever you are, wherever you're listening, look for somebody local, right? Or if you see somebody on social media that you like, that's doing good stuff, like, I don't know, send them a DM, I guess, but seek help, right? It's okay to ask for help.
So well said. Yeah. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean you don't know what you're doing. It doesn't mean you don't have we don't have all the answers, but people are usually really eager to help when you approach them in a way that's, constructive and seeking that help. There's, a lot of good that can be had from that.
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah.
Cool. Last thing, Ro, before you're all the way off the hook, we got our hypothetical scenario that leaving all the guests with, and we're saying you're leaving your favorite coffee shop in Leucadia there. and you run into your younger self of 10 years back. So younger Ro 10 years ago, and younger you ask current you for some life advice. You only have 60 seconds. You're on your way to an important meeting with a client. What advice are you giving to him, and what are you saying to him?
I would probably say how you were raised, and not the good morals, not the good values, not that. Okay, those are given. How you were raised is not how you are, and it's not how you have to be. Right? So you can blame a lot of things on, your dad being so tough on you. You can blame a lot of things on how the culture is, but that's not really who you are. So how you are, how you were raised, aside from the good values and good morals, is not who you are now, and it's not who you have to be. So that's what I would tell you.
Powerful, man. Gave me some goosebumps there. I like it.
Yeah.
Well, cool, Ro. Where can people find you if they're looking to reach out to you, looking for any training advice, looking for any help? Where can they locate you?
I have a personal IG, page at Just Row With It. That's just my personal page. They can DM me there. Sort of setting up this in our health media now in the Instagram page, but there's so many things, so many moving pieces. I have to kind of improve on that. So I would probably say email me. You can email me on andrhealthmedia@gmail.com or rosanofit@gmail.com. So if they just send me an email, I'll respond usually within 24 hours. If anybody just even has any questions, it's not, or wants a free consultation, or if somebody says, hey, listen, could you help me find somebody, in the Ohio area, that's a good, credible coach. I'll do the research. I'll do the legwork, find somebody good for that person, say, hey, listen, this particular coach or this particular studio is doing these things. This might be something you might want to look into because they're doing some really great stuff. So, whatever, anything. If they just want to reach out and have any questions, I can certainly help them with that. So just email me at inrhealthmedia Gmail and rosanofit@gmail.com.
Cool. And we can put that in the show
Awesome.
notes for anyone listening. Ask for help, just like Ro was saying. Actually follow through and go ask him for some help. If you have specific questions, make sure to actually take advantage of that.
Yeah, if you have any questions,
yeah,
and I'll direct them to you, Dave.
Awesome, Ro. This is a lot of fun today, man. A lot of good information. Thanks for coming on.
Awesome, man. Thank you for having me.
Yep.
Appreciate it.